Covering you from your LB1 to your taxi squad, this is IDP Nation.
Manning back, bouncing fires to the far side. It's intercepted and running into the touchdown.
Your home for the best in IDP and draft coverage.
Daniel has time in the pocket, steps up, and he's going to be hit from the side, and he's going down. That's a sack.
Here are the hosts of IDP Nation, Hollywood and Kyle B.
Welcome back to IDP Nation. I'm Hollywood. Kyle is not with us tonight as he is coaching a kid's softball game. Hopefully he's not making bad calls and getting heckled by the parents, but hey, you know, things happen. So I thought I'd bring up, yeah. You know, he's trying to make a career, I guess.
Doing something with his life, eh? Good for him.
I know, right? How dare he?
He's got a life.
Principalities, dude.
He's got a life outside of Hollywood.
I know, right? That don't sound right. How dare he?
Well, lucky for you. When my buddy Hollywood asks for some help and wants to get out as much content as he can, I'm here for you, brother.
I appreciate that.
So we're gonna go over our
Kyle just
defense wins
standing me up at the
championships.
altar, just leave me sitting there by myself. Yep, so no news and notes since we just recorded a few days ago. So we thought we'd do your defensive wins championships draft. We discuss that, go over it, who we like, who we don't like, all that good stuff. Because, this thing called the draft is just a couple days away now. So
It's
perfect
tomorrow,
time.
brother. It's Christmas Eve. The draft is tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes. So it's less than, starts at 7, so 21 plus hours and counting. So, yeah. It's a miracle, Tiny Tim.
Right on. Let's do this.
Right.
So Will
So
Anderson,
you all have heard me and Kyle. Yeah.
your boy.
Will Anderson was the number one pick overall in this draft. Number 2 was Miles Murphy. Number 3 was Jalen Carter. 4 was Jack Campbell. 5 was Trenton Simpson. 6 was Drew Sanders, so a run on linebackers. And then 7 was Brian Breesy. So we 14 teams, so that was the top 7 picks or the first half of the first round. Anything catch your eye there, Mr. Razor?
Well, I mean, we do this draft. We started this draft on March 17th, so doesn't surprise me. You know, Will Anderson going number 1 overall. I know you love him. I have a few more questions than you do, but obviously he's, solid number 1 overall pick, and probably any of us in that position at that time probably would have made a similar pick. And I personally may have done something crazy, but I don't think I've ever had a 1.01 in my life that I can recall. So I mean, I know you think he's can't miss bulletproof prospect, whereas I think a little small, a little slow, great tape, great competition, great player, great polish, but from a ceiling point of view, I believe that maybe some others in this draft class may surpass him at some point in his career. But for next year, there's a chance for double-digit sacks, whereas you can't really say that about too many of these guys, if any. So.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. We'll probably talk about some of them here in a minute, but 6'3", 253. He's He's not too small, right? I kind of want to think that's, if I remember correctly, kind of similar to Brian Burns' size.
I'm not sure right offhand, to be quite frank with you, but I remember loving Burns and his bend. I just thought Burns had, that freaky bend that we look for. And I think Burns, I'll look it up, but I think Burns is probably taller. Could be wrong. I think he's closer to 6'5", right. But let me just take a look-see. Surprised me with that one.
While you're looking at that, while you're looking at up, right in the back half of this.
Yeah, he's 6'5", Burns. Like I said.
Oh, okay, so a couple inches.
But he's 250, so he's a little skinny. At least that's what ESPN site is saying. I'm sure he's put on maybe a few pounds since then.
Right. Like I mentioned, 4 through 6, we had a linebacker run. Campbell out of Iowa, Simpson out of Clemson, and Drew Sanders out of Arkansas. You like that order? You have them in a different order?
I definitely have Simpson number 1 overall. I know that's different from you and a lot of other people. I consider Simpson to be an excellent athlete with a high ceiling. He's my number 1 overall linebacker in the class, and in this league, true position puts a premium on off-ball linebacker, but he's still not like a Devin White or anything for me. You know what I mean? As far as years past. So, right. But yeah, I mean, definitely somebody. He'd be my first linebacker that I would take. Oh, sorry. So Campbell went before him in this league. And then, that's a little bit surprising to me. Yep. I had Campbell rated a lot lower based off of just his tape, but then he blew up the combine, so I moved him up, substantially. But he's still probably much lower on my rankings than other people's. I had him as number 12 overall for this draft. I haven't changed my list much since, I created it before this draft on March 17th. I've only made very few small changes and nothing really near the top. So, but this owner is a new owner, and his name's Justice. I think he does the Devy IDP grind with you guys, and I was very impressed with his first draft in this league. I'm very happy to have him on board in this league. I thought he did a great job. I was going through some trades today because I'm got a new website just under construction right now. idpmadman.com is what it's going to be in the end. But I put down 10 recent trades and analyzed them all, mostly in this league. And I thought he did a good job in his trades as well. So he's off to a great start, and I really liked what I saw out of him. So I'm not going to doubt him at this point. And like, IDP is much different than the real world. You know what I mean? If I'm grading a prospect for the NFL, I'm taking Trenton Simpson, but I could easily see Jack Campbell outperforming him depending on, the landing spot and the situation. You know what I mean? Like if he goes to, say, Washington, or, there's a number of different things that could happen and that's another thing I want to do with us is after the draft, or like once we know these landing spots, I want to do a mock draft, almost instant reaction kind of thing, instant analysis. And as soon as we see where these guys land, we'll kind of do a little mock draft with us IDP savvy guys, and be one of the first people to sort of put that out there for public consumption is my idea.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I love that. I think that'd be great. Be a lot of, like you said, instant. no time to think about it, just kind of firsthand what your initial thoughts, right? I think you see a lot of difference or variance once you know these landing spots. So,
Yeah, that'd be kind of like a redraft
the top
for
7.
us in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
For our league.
So we talked about the linebackers. We talked about Anderson. The other 3 was Miles Murphy at 2, and then you had 2 defensive tackles. You had Jalen Carter at 3, Reese at 7. I think that's kind of surprised Carter didn't go at 2, to be honest with you. Just my thought. I thought he would be one of the first 2 off the board.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I don't think people really value D tackle the way they should, and particularly with our scoring system. D tackle is very important in DWC and NWO. But, you know, a lot of longtime IDP guys have,
yeah, I agree.
You know, are used to D ends being, and D end's more of a glamour position, you know what I mean? So I think it's only natural that it occurred like that. And actually, it happened exactly the way I thought it would in my very first, you know, predictions on how the draft would go in my initial rankings. It went exactly the way I thought it would. And a lot of people I know are down on Miles Murphy, but I'm not one of them. I mean, sure, you know, I think he had 6.5 sacks his last year, and he only had maybe 11.5 in his first 2. But like NFL talent evaluators and coaching staffs, teams in general, put a lot of stock in experience, right? And the kid's been, you know, a household name, 5-star, you know, since high school. You know, he's being groomed for the NFL for, you know, a long time now. And I honestly feel like kind of he was sort of biding his time, and that his NFL career could be much better than even his college career was, as crazy as that sounds. But we'll see. But I'm not one of these guys that, you know, I see him sliding down draft boards, and I am personally not one of those guys. And I don't think NFL teams are going to be like that, but we'll see tomorrow. You know, I see him going all the way down in the 20s sometimes, and maybe that does happen. But for my money, I think he's a little bit undervalued now, whereas he was overvalued at the time of this draft. That's what I have in my notes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's got one of the safest floors. And a lot of times when you say safe floor, that kind of turns people off, right? It kind of sounds like you're saying game manager, but that's not how I'm saying it. He's got one of the safest floors, but his floor is one of the highest too, I think.
Yeah, he's got a great get off and a nice
like you said,
long arm.
Looking at it, 13.
Sorry about that. You must have cut out. I thought you were done.
No, you're fine.
His UNC tape wasn't great. I'll say that. I say that his UNC tape was unkind, and Asim Richards handled him pretty good. So that might be a glimpse into his NFL future too, and maybe that is why he's dropping. But I still think he's solid overall. I know Kyle likes him a lot. He's hoping that he lands in Green Bay.
Yeah, that'd be a nice fit for them in Green Bay, I think. Put him on the opposite side of Rashawn Gary. That'd be a nice little fit right there for sure. Plus, he's big enough. He can kick inside for a player too, right? You can play matchups. He can get inside a little bit. I mean, you don't want to play him there predominantly, but in certain cases, you could kick him inside and play the matchup.
Yeah, exactly. And Van Ness is another guy that's a great fit for Green Bay, in my opinion. He's almost identical to like Rashawn Gary, and that defense went to shit when Gary went down last year. Prior to that, they were killing it.
Yes, it did. Yeah, they were having a really good season. They were. Good segue, but you talk about Van Ness. So the back half of the first round, 8 through 14, you had at number 8 Tyree Wilson, who we kind of alluded to a little to him. At number 9, you had Lucas Van Ness from Iowa, who you just mentioned. Number 10 was Brian Branch, the safety. Number 11 was Nolan Smith, the edge from Georgia. 12 was Kalijah Cansey from Pitt. Then you had at 13 Antonio Johnson, the safety from Texas A&M. And at 14, the last pick of the first round was Will McDonald IV, the defensive end out of Iowa State. Heavy looking at it, 1, 2, 3, 4. You had 5 of those last 7 were edge rushers. You had and 2 safeties there with 1 defensive tackle. So quite a little bit of a mix there. You were talking about Van Ness and Tyree earlier. If you had to pick between those two, kind of where are you going? Are they close? I know you mentioned talking about Anderson. Well, some people have Tyree Wilson higher than Anderson. I'm not buying that. I'm just not buying. I can see why, right? He's bigger, he's taller, a little faster, got that huge condor wingspan, and had pretty good numbers for Texas Tech. But I will take the proven production against an elite conference. I'll take that any day of the week. So, and I'm not saying that Wilson's bad, but he's, for me, there's no way he's above Will. And then for Lucas Van Ness, I've been one of the higher ones coming on him coming out of college. So, for me, I think Van Ness and Wilson's pretty close, depending on what you like.
Oh yeah, that's a great debate. That's one of the closer debates that I have in my mind. But I kind of get caught up in the hype a little bit too much, and I want to take Van Ness over Tyree Wilson. I don't want to like Wilson, you know what I mean? I have a bias for no good reason, but also I didn't really love his tape against KSU. I think I mentioned that last time I was on, but I understand exactly why why that rumor has come out, because his ceiling is probably higher than even Will Anderson's because of his height. You know what I mean? Because of his 35 and 5/8 inch levers. Because they're so arrogant in their ability to develop talent that, you know what I mean, they're going to take more clay to mold, and they're going to just believe that they can, once he gets that polish that Will Anderson or some of these guys that went to SEC schools and, Miles Murphy even, that once he gets that sort of polish to that point, then you get those traits involved and you get those 35 and 5/8 inch levers. Imagine that long arm. You know what I mean? No offensive tackle is going to be able to really deal with that. And he's got power. He's got power in his lower half. It's a little bit underdeveloped right now, but once he, hits his peak and teams are just going to believe in themselves that much that they can get him to that ceiling. So he does have a higher ceiling than even Will Anderson. But the funny part about that pick is that one of the guys was in Vegas while this draft was going on, and he timed out. And so in the comments section there, the Vitamin D, the guy who selected Tyree Wilson, thanks Doc for partying too hard in Vegas. But Doc still got Brzee, who at that time I had as my number 7 overall. I think I dropped him down a little bit in my latest version of my rankings. But I love Van Ness. Absolutely love him. And I traded you for him after the fact. I was hoping that he would drop to me at 13, but I knew better. I always had him in my top 10. And Brian Branch, as I said last time, I'm not the biggest fan of his, but I mean, I understand it. First safety off the board, and depending on team needs, maybe, Killer Bees needed a safety. Nolan Smith was like my plan B, but, once he blew up at the combine, I knew once Van Ness and Nolan Smith blew up at the combine, I knew I wasn't getting them at 13. I was kind of hoping somebody would make a mistake, and, you can haggle over a spot here or there, but overall, I think every single player that was supposed to go in those top 11 picks went. And even 12, like now, if you did it over again, that guy might even go higher. Kalijah Cansey.
Right.
Personally, like I mentioned last time I was on, I'm not I don't think he's bulletproof. I think, he can get handled easily, right? Because just the simple fact that he's 280 pounds and he's got very short arms. He's got 1 percentile arms. And so I'm not necessarily buying this hype. And I haven't heard any negative stuff about him, which is ridiculous to me. And I just don't get it all the way leading up to the draft. If you do a search on him on Google right now and videos or even articles, all you see is positive. And sure, I mean, he's probably a great kid, and he had good tape, he had decent tape, but you can definitely reach him. You can definitely, especially NFL O linemen are going to be able to handle him. I don't care what anyone says. Like, he's just not going to be a dominant force. And like I said, he needs sort of somebody who commands a double team beside him, so it could free him up for some one-on-ones or shoot the gaps. Like if you had Jordan Davis beside him, for instance. But anyways, I'm not going to belabor the point because I already spoke about it at length last time. And then I'm the guy who took Antonio Johnson. And, in retrospect, it's probably a little high, but I just knew he wasn't going to get back to me. At that time, my second round pick was 23 overall. I went back and watched some tape since our last episode, and I'm a little lower on him than I was, to be quite frank. I saw some things that were more concerning than the first time, and maybe I fell victim to sort of like highlight film material instead of actually grading the tape, and maybe I just felt like he was a can't miss prospect. But now I see some more chinks in the armor, even though I still do like him overall. But if I'm being honest, and I'm probably gonna, there's some things in the mix here with me for trades and stuff, and there's some things going on in my little pea brain here, but I'll let you talk about your boy Will McDonald, because that's your selection. And one thing I will say about Will McDonald is he was, Iowa State scheme did him no favors last year. He was playing inside more than he should have, and it was just, he wasn't in the NFL. He'll be free to make plays at his true position, in my opinion. So.
Yeah. Before I get to him, because I'm kind of curious to what your thoughts is on him. I think you're right. You were waiting on Johnson, but Brian Branch falling kind of a little bit kind of helped you, right? Because as soon as Branch come off the board, I kind of expected Johnson to go behind him pretty close, and that's what happened, right? Branch went at 10, you took Johnson at 13, so relatively close. Johnson fan, but I just like the versatility of Branch better than I do Johnson. I think Johnson's going to be more of an in-the-box type player. So where Branch, I think you can move him around free safety, slot, some of those things. And I guess like you said about like we said about some of the other players, I guess it depends on what you're needing for your defensive scheme, right? What type of player do you have? Because not every team needs the same type of player. So I think it's, it's what you need. So for McDonald, yeah, I really like this dude. Like you said, last year did not do him any favors. He was a fifth-year senior, took advantage of the COVID year, which is fine. I don't have any argument with that. But if you go back and look at 20 and 21, he had a combined 22 sacks, 10.5 in 20, 11.5 in 21. Was just a disruptive force. I think that's more conducive of what you will get from him. I've seen some, listening this past few days as we're getting ramped up for the draft, rumors are flying everywhere. A team like Houston, if they don't go early, right, and get a pass rusher at 2, but I've heard maybe possibly at 12, or they move back off of 12, they could get a pass rusher, and a player like McDonald would fit with them kind of good, right? So, and he they've got him listed as a linebacker, but he played a lot of defensive end for them too. So he kind of flipped back and forth. He kind of fits. Actually, he's a little less than what Will Anderson is, right? They're both 6'3", but McDonald's in the 240 range, where Anderson was just a little heavier. But yeah, I think he's like Miles Murphy in the fact that his floor is very safe. If you want to go that route, picking safe players that you know can produce and be relied upon, I think he's one of them. So with some of the heavy pass rushers already gone, Anderson, Miles Murphy, Tyree Wilson, Van Ness, Smith, I think for me, as far as pass rushers, he was the next best available. So just a favorite of mine overall. And sometimes I get, like we all do, I kind of get caught up with wanting to draft my favorite players that I've kind of watched or followed. So, but if you go watch the tape, I think you'll see that going to be a quality pass rusher.
One last, and
second round here. So we're starting the second round. No, go ahead.
So for Will McDonald, yeah, he's undersized. That's my big problem with him. But I still, think that he'll go to the right scheme. I kind of see him in Kansas City for some reason, as a Chief.
Oh, that would be nice too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I see him maybe falling a little bit, and I actually see Nolan Smith falling a bit in the real NFL draft, which sounds crazy after the combine he had. And I mean, for an undersized guy, for like a Hassan Reddick type body type, man, does he ever hold the line of scrimmage well? You know what I mean? Versus the run, he does a great job. Like, I have no concerns with him giving up ground versus the run. And then one last thing I wanted to say. And that's actually kind of the opposite. He plays the run better than the pass in a way, which is crazy with his measurables and his traits, Nolan Smith. But for my pick of Antonio Johnson, my comp for him, I thought I was maybe one of the only people, or the only person, or the first person is what I like to say, to come up with this comp, but I did some more research and found somebody else who did, so I guess I can't claim it. I don't know when they dropped their little video, but Tracy Walker, he's a spitting image of Tracy Walker to me, Antonio Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's a really good comp for him, maybe with a higher ceiling though. Tracy Walker's been very useful for IDP owners up till last year when he had the Achilles injury. Saw some video of him recently, and he looks like he's recovering fairly well for this stage. Achilles used to be a death sentence, but these athletes nowadays, and
Yep.
the medical marvels that can occur, like, I don't count anybody out anymore, really.
Yeah, it's no longer the 70s when that was, like you said, pretty much a death sentence. You're pushing some cases 9-10 months, and you're back over it if everything goes correct and all that. So we've come a long way there.
ACL.
I do like the Tracy Walker comp.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I do like that Tracy Walker comp. Comps has not been something I've really been high on or good at, but that does, hearing you say that makes a lot of sense. He does have a lot of similar game style to him. Second round. So this is picks 15 through 29.
Yeah.
15 through 29.
Because of the toilet bowl winner. You know what
Yep.
I mean? The other side, you know what I mean? The non-playoff teams all play for a chance to get the pick at the end of the second round. Consolation round, I guess, champion.
Right. So, yeah, exactly. So at 15 to 201, Adatani Adewale, who transferred from Northwestern. I mean, not Northwestern, but James Madison, I believe it was. That's where he transferred from. 202, 16 overall is Noah Sewell. 203, 17 overall is BJ Ojulari. 204 18 is Mozzie Smith. 205 at 19 overall is Byron Young from Tennessee, the defensive end. 206, 20th overall is Felix Anaduke Uzama from Kansas State. And then at 21, which is 207, Derek Hall from Auburn. Straight, pure pass rushers. I know Hall's listed as a linebacker, but he's right in that edge class with these guys. Mozzie and the defensive tackle, Noah Sewell being the linebacker, but the rest was pure edge rushers. So Adewale, Sewell, Ojulari, Smith, Young, Anaduke, Uzama, and Hall. For me, and I was hoping he would fall to me because I kick off the back half of the second round, but I was hoping Byron Young would fall to me from Tennessee. He was one that tested super well at the combine too, right? But I wasn't basing it just on combine numbers because being a Tennessee fan, I've seen him for the past 2 or 3 years, so I knew how good he was. So glad to see him test well, but I was hoping he would fall to me, and he got taken about 3 picks ahead of me. So that didn't quite work out. I love the Derek Hall pick by Doc. I think that's another one that's going to be good. Anaduke for Kansas State, that's a good pick. I guess if I had one, well, the two that stand out to me out of this whole group, and me and you talked about one of them at length for a while, Noah Sewell. I honestly thought when the first 3 linebackers would come off the board, I thought he would be a lot closer than what he is now. I know we've talked about how we like and don't like him or whatever, but I thought the need in fantasy at a premium position would kind of pull him closer to the rest of the group because this is a weak class, right? You got the big 3, and then it kind of fell off. And I thought, well, maybe he would jump up there, but I still kind of think that's too high. 16 overall. But if you need a linebacker in the top 3 are going to get it. The other one is Mozzie Smith. I just don't get that one. I understand it if we're talking real football, right? Because he held it down for Michigan the last couple of years, big run stopper. But I don't, as far as fantasy goes, I don't see him translating big fantasy numbers, right? Even in a league such as this, where, excuse me, where premium points for defensive tackle, I don't think he's going to be one that's going to produce a lot of points for you. I think what he does is going to go unseen, just like it does in the NFL, clogging run lanes and eating up blocks and stuff like that. So I thought Smith and Sewell went a little way too high for me. I would have thought that they would have been more third roundish. Sewell, I guess, is okay considering the depth of the position. But your thoughts?
Well, so I was glad that you were reading off the names because I'm going to butcher them. But if I have a regret in retrospect, right, and it was actually a few days, like just almost instantly, like the day after or a couple days after of taking Antonio Johnson, with my thinking was, with such a deep defensive end edge group, I'm gonna be able to get somebody still in the second round, so I might as well get an elite safety, which was kind of stupid in a way because safety's sort of devalued in the real world and in fantasy circles has been for a long time. But I also loved Antonio Johnson, the way he hits, the way he tackles. That's one of the biggest things for me is his ability to tackle. And anyways, I won't. But if I did have one regret, it's the Adetomiwa. You say it.
Adebawore.
Adebawore.
Yes.
Because, and this was really what let me realize that we had gotten an excellent owner. This sort of confirmed it for me. Is what he said to me was that because of his possible D tackle eligibility, and I was like, that's an excellent point. You know what I mean? And so that is a pick that I thought that was an excellent pick. Noah Sewell, you lost a bet with me. I can't remember what for, but when I do remember, you're gonna have to pay up because no, I'm just joking. I feel bad actually because I didn't think he was going to go that high. He's a 2-down thumper. He is a little better in coverage than I thought, but like
Right.
based on the tape. But I'm sure the analytics don't support that. And
I hated his coverage stuff. I couldn't. For me, I couldn't get past it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I had him like very lowly ranked in this. Like, I just threw him in, and honestly, this is probably too high. I threw him in the top 35. Um, he can be exploited, bottom line, but system play, and you know what? Like, wouldn't he fit the Patriots just perfectly? You know what I mean? Like a team like that who just has a role for a guy for the first 2 downs. You know, but we'll see. And then, or maybe he's not a Patriots play. I just kind of like to throw different guys at the Patriots, probably because I hate them. But BJ Ujulari, let's see, what did I write about him? I kind of like him overall. He's LSU lazy. I always find that about LSU players at all different positions. But I liked his like play recognition. I liked his. He has good bend. He's got nice backside pursuit. He doesn't really have a whole lot of change of direction. When they drop him back in coverage, he's obviously a liability. But any defensive end or guy that's he's 6'2", 248, so he's a little light there too. Like that's sort of a caution for me, right? Like when I do my spreadsheets, my Excel spreadsheets, I color code them, and I have yellow for him at 6'2" and 248, and he's a little soft in my opinion. So I wasn't his biggest fan, but I can see him doing well in the right spot as well. Sorry, I'm going back and forth between the screen. Mozzie Smith,
You're fine.
Like you said, good real life player, Feldman freak. I think he's going to maybe surprise some people and sneak into the back end of the first round. Like if it goes as planned, and Jalen Carter and Brazee are off the board, I could see, him kind of going to maybe like New Orleans or Philadelphia. They, got to replace some guys there. So I could see him kind of sneaking into the back end of the first round in real life. But I agree with your overall IDP assessment. Sort of, he wasn't productive in college, so there's no real reason for us to think that he's gonna be uber productive in the pros. Although he could improve from a production standpoint. Byron Young, I think, is too high. Again, based on size, he tested through the roof. I like him. I like the player overall. He's a really good player. I hope he goes to the right. I'm pulling for him to succeed. I hope he goes to the right system. But again, I'm a size snob, so he's a little bit on the small side. Felix, I'll just say, and DK Uzama, not the biggest fan. I had him lower than that, I think, in my rankings. Derek Hall, I'm a huge fan of, and I know he's undersized too, but the kid is just a dog, man. Like he's got long arms too, really long arms and big hands. I love this player overall. He's he's got a safe floor in my opinion. 6'3", so that meets my threshold. My threshold is right at 6'3" for these edge guys and D tackle as well. He's light at 254, but he ran a 4.55 and he has that nice 1.59 10-yard split. So I'm a fan. I wanted him, but when I knew that I probably wasn't going to get some of these guys, and I didn't know what other people thought. But it turns out that most people had the same line of thinking that I did with my rankings. So it was kind of going as planned at this point. And your next pick here was because I had the next pick after you. And this is a guy that I really wanted, and you sniped him on me, Keon White. And we're going to see him probably go in the first round, as our buddy Choppin shared with us today, a Kansas City resident. He has the actual, paper for the guys that are going to be there in the green room at the draft, because it's hosted in Kansas City this year. and Keon White is on there. So even though he's 24 years old, older prospect, but you know, he's everybody who sees him in person,
a beast.
They're impressed, right? Every single person that that talks about his athleticism for his size. He's a former tight end, and I don't know what he ended up running, but it was at that time he was supposedly a 4.6 40 time, and he's a bit of a projection, but I really wanted him 6'5", 285. So nice pick there, Holly.
Yeah, I think at that point, like I said, I didn't get Byron Young, who I wanted. Derek Hall was gone. Some of the even Anaduki Izama, I felt like he was the next best pass rusher, and I had to go. I just had to take him. I hurt at that position, so that kicked off the back half at 22 overall, which is 208. Keon White. Then we had linebacker Henry To'o at 23, the 209. Ivan Pace, the linebacker from Cincinnati, at 210. Dayon Henley from Washington State at 211. Tuli Tuipolatu from USC, the defensive end, at 212. Jordan Battle, the safety from Bama, at 213. Demarion Overshawn, the linebacker from Texas, at 214. And then the toilet bowl winner pick, or whatever you want to call it, loser bracket winner, Owen Papo, another Auburn player, the linebacker, at 215. So, you know, we've seen all these edge rushers go.
I've heard his name pronounced as Pappy.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how it's pronounced. I've always said Pop. I don't know that that's correct, so if it's wrong, forgive me. But
a word on.
I like the pick of Henry Toto at 23. I thought that was a really good pick. I liked Ivan Pace. Now, if you follow me in some of my grading things that I do, tested off the charts, right? I mean, he's up there. So, but you've got to look at level of competition. I think hurts him because I always say, people say, well, he didn't play the best of competition. True, fair enough. I give you that. But he did the one thing that he was supposed to do against that competition, and that's dominate. And he did that. So I think from there, you need to go look at where he plays some of the bigger schools, maybe some of these bowl games and stuff, see how he did there. Like I said, I liked him, but even for me, I thought 24 overall was a little bit high for him. I think he would have been better as a third rounder somewhere. Dayon Henley, I kind of tuned into him late. Didn't get to watch as much of him as probably I needed to. So I feel like I kind of missed out because you can't watch everybody, but I feel like I missed there because from what I have kind of seen since then, he looks like he could be a serious piece as a pass rusher. Tui Tuipolatu, another good pick, going to be a defensive end, can kick in if he needs to some. Love the pick by Rev, Jordan Battle, the safety. I think he's one of those super high floors, right? You got all these flashy players on Branch and Antonio Johnson. Well, I think Jordan Battle is more of a Miles Murphy, right? You know what you're going to get. You can plug him in. He's going to give you good stats. I think that's a good, if you want to do comps. I know it's different positions, but I think their values are similar. So I like that. Overshown, I just don't know about him, right? Used to be a safety, converted to linebacker. I think I like him more as a safety. Now, I will say this. If you can play him at safety in fantasy, I kind of like his value. Kind of like we were talking
Jamal
about.
Adams kind of.
Yeah. So I do kind of like that. But outside of that, I'm not a big fan. And then Owen Poppy, or Popo, however you say it, that blistering 40 time, man, just sent him skyrocketing, right? Just whew. So I thought that was a little early for him, but know, with the combine numbers, everybody's got rookie fever, so they jump on him. But I mean, it's not a horrible pick, but I just thought it was a little earlier than I would have. I guess if I had to pick one out of this, outside of my White, I think I like the Deion Henley the best, or the Jordan Battle. I think those two in the back half of this round. I think that was two of my more favorite picks right there.
Okay, for me, after you took Keon White, I was like, well, I'm gonna, I don't love any of these edge guys. Like I wanted him pretty bad, so now I can trade back. And I knew Rev wanted some linebackers from previous discussion, and I knew this was about the area where To'o would go. So I traded back, got more picks, because initially I only really had 4 or 5 picks. You know what I mean? I had a first, a second, and I don't even know if I might have had a 5th and 8th or something like that. I didn't have a lot, so I was like, that was sort of my plan all along. I'm gonna try to trade back and try to get more picks if possible, which sometimes is hard during a draft, but at least our league is very active and we have a lot of really good owners. So I traded back out of that spot after you took Keon White. Henry To'o is nothing special physically, in my opinion, but solid linebacker. Mentally, he's going to be where he needs to be. He's a good player. He's just not a great player. He's fundamentally and mentally sound, but no special qualities physically. But I mean, landing spot's going to be key for him. Sorry, I'm just going back and forth between sheets here. And yeah, obviously Ivan Pace went way higher than I thought he should have. However, I think that particular owner does listen to your podcast, is what I think happened there, personally. Because I have Ivan Pace down at 48 overall. Lots of folks love him and his tape. I'm a size snob and skeptical, and perhaps unfairly, right? Because he did have great tape. You know what I mean? So, but I just, it's sort of like the Devin Bush thing was for me previously, even though he's nowhere near Devin Bush in my opinion. But he's going to get covered up. He's going to have a hard time, but it's happening more and more, like Monty Rice sort of situation as well, but it happens more and more. I don't know if I'm going exactly according to the list here, but Dan Henley was somebody that I was extremely high on based on his highlight tape. When I watched his highlight tape, I was like, oh man, I had this guy ranked very, very highly. But then I started watching the game tape, and his tape USC was horrible, absolutely terrible. But I'm sure that Kyle, who's the guy that took Deion Henley, and there's a lot of people extremely high on him, and a lot of people extremely high on him in the IDP community, and I understand why, because there's flashes of brilliance, there's flashes of greatness. When he reads and reacts, you know what I mean, he can be elite. But when you put that whole USC game tape on, let me tell you, man, it is not kind. So, but I'm sure that Kyle was ecstatic that Ivan Pace went the pick before, and getting Henley there is right now is considered a win. My computer screen just went absolutely haywire on me. Okay, let me see. We're at Thule. I like Thule. I actually wanted him with the next pick, but I got sniped again, so I traded back again, and was able to pick up an extra couple of picks. Thule came in 30 pounds, almost 30 pounds less than he was listed at in the USC program. So that's a bit of a concern, but highly productive guy. Will be a solid pro. Just a football player. You know what I mean? You can't not like the guy. Jordan Battle, like you said, I agree with what you said, and I spoke about him last time, so I won't go into great depth there. Solid player, and I said last episode, I kind of feel like for value, I'd rather have Jordan Battle than spend a high pick on Brian Branch. But we'll see, and it's highly dependent on landing spot. But DeMarvion Overshown was somebody I was really high on early in the process as well. But all those armbands that just turned me off. No, just kidding. But the guy wears like armbands all up and down his arms and his legs, and a lot of projection with him. Like you said, a former safety. He's going to need some time,
Right.
but he's got a high ceiling. He's a bit lazy too, though. I watch the way these guys run to the ball when the ball doesn't go their way, and and there's some things that really kind of concern me about a lot of college guys like that. And Pappy or Papo, whatever, Papo, he was somebody that back in 2021 even I was all over this guy, right? Like in my mock draft simulations on online, because I'm just an avid NFL draft guy. I was taking him late for my Miami Dolphins. I really loved his athleticism, but as the process unraveled a bit for me, I started watching the tape, and there's one play in particular against Penn State. And I know this is going to sound crazy to say, but one play in particular told me this guy is never going to be great. He's a great tester, but that doesn't always show up on tape. And I would like to break down that one play sometime just to show people. And one play doesn't make a football player. Everybody, has an off day, or, has a, bad play. Nobody's perfect, but I just saw something in that told me, I got to drop him down. And I ended up dropping him right around ahead of Noah Sewell. But there's another guy that's tape I found was terrible as well. And he's right in the same sort of area as Dorian Williams. But anyways, we'll just continue on in order here.
All right. So now we're to the third round, which is starts at pick 30 overall, the 301. That is defensive end Nick Herbig from Wisconsin. Those Wascally Badgers up there. Number 302, not number 302, but at 302, Andre Carter, the defensive end from Army. 303, Isaiah Foskey, defensive end from Notre Dame. 304 was Zach Harrison, defensive end from Ohio State. Then 305 is Dorian Williams, who you alluded to just a second ago. 306, Sidney Brown, the safety out of Illinois. And then 307, which is 36 overall, halfway to the third here, Mohamed Diabate, the linebacker from Utah, who at one time was a part of the Florida Gators. So that's the first half of the third round. I liked Andre Carter. I liked what I saw out of him, right? If you go back to 2021, just kind of dominated, right? Just speed rush. He's got a lot of length. Has got some good power, not great power, but he does a good job with the speed to power. But I think a lot of people are down on him because of last year, because he didn't put up the same kind of numbers, right? But he's with any player. I think you got to go back
because
and look at
they
his tape. They didn't use him.
They were game planning for him based on 2021. He was getting doubled a lot.
Yeah, he was getting doubled, and they also didn't use him as the same way they did. Right, because the talent around him wasn't as good. So I think that kind of hurt him. And yes, like you said, teams, they had a playbook on him. They had tape on him. They could see what he's good at. They could plan and game scheme around that. So for me, I think he's somewhere in the middle, right? And when I first did I did an article on IDP Nation. When I was doing my breakdown, one of the first places that hit my mind was Philadelphia because of that wide they like to run, right? So if they could get a player like him in the second round, and put him out there as that wide nine pass rusher, I think he could excel there, right? Because they've got the big guys up front that's going to eat a lot. They've got some good linebacker play. I just think a team like Philly would be a good fit for him. You picked Foskey.
Long term, I just have to talk about Carter because I had him ranked extremely high. Long term, I like him a lot. Like I'm sky high on him. but fantasy owners can't really wait 3 years. You know what I mean? NFL teams can't really either, but he has
Right.
huge upside. I was shocked at his get off. He has one of the best get offs in this draft, period, bar none, and he's 6'6.5". His get off was tremendous for that length. But in the Senior Bowls and the other bowls and the postseason circuit that these guys do, he didn't do well, and he only ran a 4.86, and he's 256. Right. But he's in the Army. These guys aren't like at a football factory where their whole lives are dedicated to football, and they catch a break from the rest of their responsibilities in life. And that's another reason why his ceiling is sky high. As soon as he gets into, even starting now, he's 100% committed to the NFL, which a lot of these academy guys aren't able to do. And so now he's going to be able to. He's probably got a nutrition program, but he will when he goes to pros for sure. You know what I mean? Get him in the pro weight rooms with the pro coaches. Get him on the.
Yeah, I agree. I like the upside and potential for him for sure.
I had him ranked at 15 for God's sakes, but that's too high, and I want to caution people that that's probably not going to happen next year. This is going to take a couple of years. Then again, it may not.
Yeah, you're going to have to be patient with him, I think. I think if you go in expecting too much, you're going to be setting yourself up for a letdown. If you can just be patient and let it happen, I think could be one of the bigger steals. I think I had him inside my top 30. I don't know what the list is. I think I had him at 26, 27, so not too far off from where I had him, but yeah. You drafted Foskey. I just never was a big fan of Foskey. I don't know. He just seemed to – he didn't seem to be as good this year as he was last year.
Oh, I don't love him. Trust me.
But
this was
look
just
at him
letting
play
you
special
guys.
teams, and he was dominant on special teams.
Yeah, he blocked 4 punts.
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt you there, but I was just letting everybody else, because at a certain point, like I said, when Keon Clark went, I was sort of like, okay, I'll take any of the rest of these guys. They're sort of all grouped in a large tier for me, and I was pretty happy that Foskey lasted to pick 32. That's pretty long, and Andre Carter going ahead. It works better for my team because Andre Carter's a long-term play, and that's who I was going to take because, I stick to my evaluations and I stick to my guns, and I'm a hot take kind of guy, you know what I mean? So, and I always, put my money where my mouth is, and I put my balls on the line a lot, and that's just that's my style, and I love that, right? And that's what it's all about for me. But Foskey, I was pumped that he dropped to me at 32 in round at 3.03 with a lot of these sort of undersized guys going ahead. Yeah. He is stiff, like people say. He is stiff. He's the all-time sacks leader at ND too, though. Do you know what I mean? And he's definitely got some athleticism to him, even though he's not an elite athlete. But he's got some size to him too. That's he's 6'5", 264, and he ran a 4.58. Now his 10-yard split is a little bit concerning at 1.66, but and he plays smaller than his size sometimes.
Yeah, because you want that split under that.
Yeah, I want the split at 161 or under, right? Anything under 1.6 is good for me, but he didn't have great tape against OSU. But he's solid overall, right? And you put him in the right spot, he's going to do his job. You know what I mean? If he goes to the Lions or somewhere like that, he's going to do his job. He's going to be there. He's going to get some sacks. He may never, he's never going to lead the league in sacks probably, but there's a outside shot that he gets double-digit sacks, and he's an 8 or 9 sack guy more than a 5 or 6 sack guy, in my opinion, down the line. So, I'm not disappointed with that. But even in the note on site, I even say, I don't love him, but you guys forced me to do it basically. So it's value, and it works well with my team, which is in win now mode. So
yeah, yeah, and that kind of fits your team, right? With what you've got and what you're doing, I think that's a pretty good fit for you. Of these first 7 of this round, my favorite pick was Sidney Brown, right, the safety from Illinois. Man, he's just so good overall. Can do a little bit of everything for you. Can be that enforcer. Can cover pretty well back there. Can get your secondary lead, which is important too, right? I mean, I know we don't really care about that in fantasy, but because it doesn't get points, but that's what kind of keeps you on the field when you can lead everybody and get them set. So, like I said, he'll hit you. Not afraid at all to come down and play the run. So I think getting him at 35, if you missed out on Brian Branch and Jordan Battle and Antonio Johnson, as high as they were going, I think this is a steal at pick 35.
Yeah. Canadian connection there. Canadian kid, him and his brother. So you're not going to hear a bad word out of me. Plus, he killed the combine.
Yes, he did. Yes, he sure did.
I like that. I like that Zach Harrison pick too. I felt strongly that he was the next pick off the board after Foskey for me. I know a lot of people don't like him. I know he didn't have a lot of production, but he was higher on my list initially. This is going to sound crazy, but he's a cheaper Tyree in a way. Like he's a poor man's Tyree. I'm not saying he's ever going to be as good as Tyree Wilson, long term or anything like that. But he's 6'5", 274, and he does his job for the most part. He's steady, if not spectacular, and he's got a decent ceiling, in my opinion. I think that's not a bad pick there either. So I don't want to just skip past him. He could have went a little later, but also I felt like he was the next guy off the board. I was thinking I might get him actually later. I didn't know. I thought other people would be lower on him.
Yeah, I thought he would go a little later too. Of course, I'm not as high on him as a lot of people. Maybe it's the Ohio State bias that I don't like him. I mean, I don't know. I just couldn't see his full game as a fantasy player, right? I think he's one that's going to be better NFL wise than he is fantasy wise. I could be.
Yeah, you're right.
Because he shows some flashes, with his pass rush and stuff like that. So,
Diabate is somebody I thought.
So we'll move on here to the back half. Go ahead. Sorry.
Diabate went too soon, in my opinion. I do like the player, but I thought as a late round, value pick or steal, pick 36 overall is way too high for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, he should have. I think he should have stayed another year at Utah myself, but So the back half, 37 through 43 of the third round here. So 308, which was my pick. I took Carl Brooks from Bowling Green. If you've been following some of me and some of my work, you know how much I love him. I think he's just a blue collar, go get it, going to give you everything he's got, right?
Yep.
He's not the most athletic, not the most talented, but he's going to outwork you, and that's as good as anything a lot of times. If you give the effort and the hustle, coaches and teams can work with that kind of stuff. It's, they can't work with lazy, so that if you're putting forth the effort, they can work with that. And his production, again, he played for Bowling Green, right? Well, who the hell did they play? Nobody. But he absolutely dominated the MAC. I mean, you go look at his numbers for the last 2-3 years. He good as anybody in college football. So, again, team dependent, where he goes. But I would love to see him go somewhere with a good defensive line, edge rush coaching staff, because I think they can maximize his effort and motor and his skill set that he has. I think he could be a really good player. Not a superstar, but he could be a really good player. I could see him in that 7 to 10 sack range, making a lot of tackles because he's good. And so I think he could be a pretty good player for somebody. 309 was Colby Wooden from Auburn. 310 was Christian Gonzalez, the corner from Oregon. Can't believe he fell this far. I really can't. 311 was J.L. Skinner. Love that pick. 312, Gervin Dexter, the defensive tackle. 313, Keanu Benton, the defensive tackle. And then the last pick of the round was 314, Anthony Orji. Jump back real quick. Christian Gonzalez. I cannot believe he fell that far. Pick 39. And this is probably me looking back now. This is probably kind of foolish on my part. But I already had some quality corners. So I kind of punted the position a little bit, which may have been the wrong take. Because I think he should have been a top 25 pick easy with some of the scoring that we have, because he's going to be a stud. He's going to be so good. I think actually he's the best corner in this class with his size, his weight, his speed, right, his length. Not afraid to hit you, not afraid to play in the run, can cover. So I like that. And then J.L. Skinner, man. I said it the other day. He's probably my number 3 safety in this class. He got hurt last year, which kind of hurt him. But if you're a college football freak and you sit up and watch Pac-12 after dark, you know exactly how good this dude is, right? I forget his measurements right off, but he's 6'4", 6'5", somewhere like that. Plays around 2, I want to say, hang on just a minute, I have it right here actually. So, sorry. He is, if this thing will, he is 6'4", 209, so I was close, 6'4", 209. And he hits and plays like a linebacker. They even had him coming down in the box some, which I think is kind of where he excels. But usually players like that can't cover, and that's what separates him from the rest. He can cover. Go back and look. He's got 5 or 6 interceptions, 10 or 11 PBUs the last 2 years, and that's the last 2 years they used him different ways. Back in 2021, he kind of was more of the back-end secondary guy, controlled it, did well. This year they didn't quite have the linebacker play, so they pulled him up more in the box. If you're looking at the numbers, he played a lot more in the box this year. But, man, his range, he can cover from side to sideline like probably nobody in this class can. I mean, if anybody beats him, it's not by much. He's fast. Now, his speed times, he didn't test because he was hurt, but he's going to be one of them. I think if you look at his game speed, he's going to play faster than he tests. But, man, I was hoping he would fall to me at the back end.
He wouldn't have made it to you.
I actually had him queued up.
Yeah, I guarantee he wouldn't have made it to you.
Yeah, because you picked right in front of me.
Yeah, I was taking him 100%. I was going to rub it all in your guys' faces and say I got the 2 hardest hidden safeties in the draft. And then Kyle sniped him, the big dirty. But yeah, I love J.L. Skinner too, and I love him more
I just
for
kept
an
sitting there and I was like, man. Yeah, sorry.
IDP perspective. I love him from an IDP perspective.
Right.
For the same reasons that you outlined.
Yep.
But yeah, Carl Brooks, I owned him in college, and I think he was a great college fantasy asset. I'm not sure that he's going to translate to the pros. It was a little early for my liking, but I don't hate the pick. And Colby Wooden is a bit of a tweener for me. Gonna be a solid pro, but maybe I should have had him higher. But I just think that his upside, his production is sort of limited, capped. Christian Gonzalez, I mean, you're not going to find a bigger Christian Gonzalez fan than me. Like I probably am the first person to ever tell you and I swear to God on this that he's going to be he's a top 10 pick, man. In our text thread that we have, all the way back to 2021 when I was doing my mock simulations, I was getting him and Devin Witherspoon in like the third round on these PFF drafts, and it's hilarious to me how they change things up to suit the current context and public consumption, and the narrative changes with them. Like their grades aren't really their grades because they change so much. You can't, if you have game grades on them and an overall grade on them, how do they go from being third round to first round? You know what I mean? I mean, they have to in a way because that's where they're actually going to go. But I saw that way back. You know what I mean? I saw that in December. Colorado transfer, the best tackling cornerback in the draft, bar none. And I saw some crazy stat though, and I'll have to give credit to PFF for this because I believe, like, I just searched his name, but I think it was them that came up with this. How many times his tackles are within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, right? Under 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. So he supports the run real well. He's a great corner. Him and Witherspoon are splitting hairs, and I see Witherspoon as like a fit for Detroit or the Raiders. Like, I can't really see him dropping past Detroit or the Raiders because just he plays the game violently too. You know what I mean? He's gonna smack you. Not Gonzalez is a solid tackler, but he's not quite as violent. So and then, sorry, I must have cut you off here. Gervin Dexter, you went a little high. Another Feldman freak. He's a man. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. But I just wish he was a little more explosive or like he's solid, though. I was kind of thinking, and I didn't do any research on this, so it might be a lazy comparison, but Seattle just signed, what's his face? Devon Hamilton, wasn't it, right? That's his name?
Yes.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking maybe him as a bit of a comp, but I haven't looked into it at all, so don't come at me if I, don't have, if their heights and weights are a lot different or, whatever their testing times were. He ran a pretty good 40 though. You know what I mean? He's an athletic guy for his size, and there's times when he can dominate up the middle with Florida. I'm the guy who selected Keanu Benton. I just see a little bit more upside for the pass rush than what he had with Wisconsin, and I just liked his tape. I really loved his tape, and I think he had a pretty good Senior Bowl by all accounts. I hate Anthony Orji. You know this. I'm not trying to make you look bad or anything, but I can't stand the guy. I watched Jonathan Mingo like straight arm him into a face plant. I just saw so much bad shit. The Stanford tape from 2021 was brutal. But also, like his IDP stats are not always in line with, a player's talent and athleticism. And he goes to right spot or injuries occur or what have you. I don't know, but I am not an Anthony Orji guy at all.
Well, that's kind of what I was banking on and that's probably a shitty take for me, right? But I needed linebacker help, and I didn't get any of the big guys that I want. Right? I didn't get Jack Campbell. I didn't get Simpson. I didn't get Sanders. You go to the second round. I took my guys, and in the second round, To'o or whatever they come up, To'o and those guys come up. So I felt like every time I was ready to take that linebacker, I was missing. So for here, I was like, I've got to have a linebacker of some kind. Is he the best in the world? No, he's not the best in the world, but he's a downhill player.
He tested well.
Tested very well, which we all know teams like. He's got some false steps in his game sometimes. He does miss a lot of tackles. Now, if somebody can work on that missed tackle and get that rate down, I like him a little better. So I think there's some things they can correct. I think his recognition sometimes is a little off. You can kind of see it in the tape, right? But if you're just wanting a downhill player who can attack, then I think that's what you got. And if you, like you said, if he lands in the right situation and maybe somebody gets hurt in front of him, I think there's some value there. So I usually don't kind of reach because that was a little higher than what I had him. But I was like, man, I've got, looking at my personal roster, I was like, man, you've got to get, even if it's shitty, you got to get some damn linebacker help somewhere. So, but yeah, there's a lot of people doesn't like Orgy. So we'll see how it works out. I think he's good enough that he can have and help you out. So we'll see. So now we're into the fourth round. So I had back-to-back picks. I ended the third. I started the fourth. I took Robert Beal, the defensive end from Georgia. At 402 was Devin Witherspoon, which is way low, but considering where Gonzalez went, I think that's right. If you're putting those in comparisons of the draft, I think that's right. But I will say both of those should have been higher. 403, Jamie Robinson, the safety from Florida State. That's a solid pick. 404, Jair Brown from Penn State, the safety. Another solid pick. I felt like these first few picks of defensive backs was real nice. 405, Mike Morris, defensive end, Michigan. I'm not a big fan of him. I thought he would do better under Harbaugh there with the Wolverines, but it just didn't quite pan out in my eyes. But somebody that watches him a little closer, they can tell you more about him. 406, Zach, defensive tackle from South Carolina, another solid pick. And then the halfway mark of the fourth round, which is pick 50 overall, KJ Henry, defensive end for Clemson. I think that's decent value, considering who Clemson had with all the Brian Breesy and Miles Murphy and Xavier. I mean, there's just been a machine with defensive ends and defensive linemen. So he's not one of the talented ones to come out of there, but I think he's a solid player, coached up well, and I think his game's going to translate fairly well to the NFL. He's not going to be a sack specialist or a sack leader, I should say, but he's going to be probably in that 7 to 10 range if he gets in the right system. So I like that. That defensive background, Devin Witherspoon, Jamie Robinson, Jair Brown, those three, I think that's great value, right? 45, 46, 47. I think, like I said earlier, Devin Brown should have went way higher. I think Gonzalez too, but when you're comparing them, I think that's right. And then the two safeties there, Robinson and Brown, which is Brock, by the way, our buddy Brock, he took them back-to-back at 46 and 47. So clearly he needed safety help, right? And I don't know that you could have got much better considering with some of the bigger guys off the board. Now, some people will tell you that Jair Brown is higher on their board than most. I don't think that's bad value where you got him.
So for me, Robert Beal is a reach, plain and simple. I know he's your guy, but I don't like him that much at that spot. I kind of feel like you went off the rails at this point in the draft. I told you that previously. These three picks I don't like. I thought you had a great start and a good finish and good value late, but these three picks I don't like. But maybe me saying that will, you'll be able to shove that in my face down the line. Usually that's the way it works out when I publicly diss some people. It usually comes back to blow up in my face. So hopefully I'm doing you a favor here. I'm not a guy to take corners this early at all. I didn't even take one corner this whole draft. I did last year and I did the year previous in late rounds. I have some decent corners, right? I'm only going to start 2 a week. So I don't worry about corners, even if they are elite, like Christian Gonzalez and Devin Witherspoon, and even if they are great tacklers, it doesn't. I'm just going to wait on them. So to me, I like it when I see people take corners at any point in the draft around here. It just means I might have a chance at getting somebody that I value more at a position that I value more. I was very disappointed to hear that it was pronounced Jamie Robinson. He was an early draft crush of mine when I thought his name was Jamie. Now, Jammy, I need a guy named Jammy on my team, and he's more of a free safety than a box safety in a way. So maybe I'm too high on him, but I was very high on him throughout the process. I kept dropping him a little bit, just because I thought I would probably be higher on him than other people. I liked what I saw of him at the Senior Bowl. I thought he did a great job in one-on-one coverage. I think he can play up near the line of scrimmage. I think he's very versatile. He's from FSU, so I don't want to like him as a Canes fan, but I love the guy. So yeah, and I just think he's going to get snaps in action. I just think he's one of those guys. You know what I mean? I think coaches are going to like him wherever he goes. He's a baller. Sorry, I have it smaller so I can read off my. Oh, Zach Pickens has always been one of my guys, quote unquote. I just have always liked this kid's untapped potential, and I feel like he's only scratching the surface overall. But he's a little bit undersized. I think he could stand to put on 10, 15 pounds, right? We'll see if that hinders him in his quickness or what have you. But like I had him clumped up with a bunch of other sort of D tackles in that range, and then I just waited to see who would get taken, and then waited to see who would drop, and took the guys that were dropping later because I wanted to address D tackle. I wanted to strengthen numbers, sort of a strategy for me with D tackle. I wanted to get some. I got 5 of them. Now I just sort of waited, like I said, and I took Keanu Benton pretty early, but all the rest of them you'll see that I waited, and I kind of like their pass rush upside for the most part, even though they didn't really demonstrate it in college. But we'll talk about that later, I guess. KJ Henry, a little bit undersized, but yeah, good value there.
Yep.
So go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
Well, you're going to list off the rest of the 4th round here. Sorry.
Yeah. So back half of the 4th round. So I'm guessing this is the other pick you didn't like that I made. Safety Brandon Joseph from Notre Dame, formerly of Northwestern. 409 was you. Linebacker Cam Jones out of Indiana. 410 is Joey Porter Jr., the corner from Penn State. 411 was Dylan, defensive end from TCU. 412 was Servassier Dennis, linebacker from Pittsburgh. 413 is D. Winters, linebacker from TCU. And then the last pick of the 4th round was come from you as well, Jeremy Banks, linebacker from Tennessee. Again, I'm
right under your nose.
Yeah, you did.
Right under your nose. I had it. You live right in the same state. You're a diehard Bulls fan. Scared me that he dropped
I had
that
him queued up at 501. I'm
wondering what you know that I don't know.
No, nothing. I just thought that's kind of where his value was, and I had him queued up, and you stole him. So, Brandon Joseph, I took a flyer here because I needed a little bit of safety help. If I'm getting the Northwestern Brandon Joseph, I've hit gold. I really feel that way. If that's what we get in the NFL, I've hit gold. Notre Dame Brandon Joseph, then I may have been a bust here. So I know it's 2 different teams, 2 different styles. I think there was some pressure on him to come in and try to fill the shoes of Kyle Hamilton, right? Because he graduated the year before. So for him to come in and try to fill those shoes and play that role, I think was a little bit much. I think that was not what he needed to do. But it is what it is. So hopefully we get back to the Northwest and Joseph. I think we'll be good there. Love the Cam Jones pick by you. Thought that was a solid pick. Joey Porter Jr., he's a bully corner, right? He's like his old man. He's going to be physical, beat you up, push you around, which is nice, right? In real football, I love that. I love a corner that's just going to come up and be in your face aggressive, but that don't get us points in fantasy. So, and I felt like that was just a little bit too early for him. And then I'll skip down here. Jeremy Banks, like I said, because I picked at 501 to start the 5th round, and he was queued. I had him queued as soon as I picked Brandon Joseph. I had Jeremy Banks queued up, and it almost made it to me, and you stole him out from under me. Thanks a lot.
Well, I didn't know that. I'm glad to hear that. Actually, you didn't tell me that story until just now. But
yeah, as soon as I made the pick for Joseph, I loaded him up. I was like, all right, I'll get another good linebacker right here. And no.
Well, there's definitely some concerns with him. You know what I mean? He was kicked off the team previously, and I think he got suspended for a game. He wasn't there for the bowl game. There's some mystery and intrigue you were telling me sort of around him and his disappearance. I don't know what's going on there. And I think you said that he's not great in coverage, but he's got a lot of tools. He takes on too much sometimes instead of attacking. You know what I mean? He gives up ground, but he's got a 3-down shot. I like him. I don't love him, right? But I mean, when you wait, like we both did on linebacker, this is what you're getting. And Cam Jones,
yep.
He's got some durability questions, but great leadership and production. I love the tape. Something I really liked about him is he's patient. You know what I mean? When he's reading his cues, he's patient. He waits for it to present itself, and then he attacks. He's just a solid player. He's a baller with 3-down ability, in my opinion, if he can stay healthy. So I really want one of those two guys to come through for me, but I'm because I waited so long for linebacker, I'm pretty worried that I won't get any of those as a hit, right? Because it's hard enough to hit as it is, you know what I mean, in a rookie draft period, no matter the position, let alone IDP. You know what I mean? They literally are 1 in a million shots. Could you just go back on that list I'll just speak briefly on each of the guys before we get to the 1st or the 5th round, and then I'll kind of kick it into high gear more. Can you roll back on that to where we were?
Oh yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to scroll too far. There you go.
So like you said, Joey Porter Jr. Sorry, I was reading Cam Jones and looking at Joey Porter Jr. Awesome real life safety, man-to-man guy. I actually have him going to Pittsburgh, the Steelers, where his father played for, I believe it was 8 seasons, and then he coached there for another couple seasons. Diehard Steeler guy. That would be just an awesome pick and legacy pick and just a fit. I also see him as a fit for New England. Bill Belichick likes to play a lot of man-to-man. And he wasn't tested that much last year, and there's a good reason for that, right? If you want to find chinks in his game and his armor, you got to go back to 2021. But another big reason for that is Manny Diaz. Manny Diaz, D coordinator at Penn State last year, and he knew what he had in Joey Porter, and he played it like a tune. So Dylan Horton, too small for me. Not a big Dylan Horton guy at all. He just got handled way too easy. I'm trying to find where I have him. It must be really low. Yeah, 61. Too small and easily neutralized, especially at the next level, in my opinion, role player. So not a big fan of him, but Big Dirty took him, and I respect Kyle a lot. So he might know something that I don't there. So I thought Servassier Dennis was a great pick, again, by the new owner, a Doomsday Defense. And I was too low on him in my initial rankings. He's a guy that I've moved up since. I had him in the 60s originally, and now I have him at around 55, 56. I didn't really do my homework on him, but he's got a chance in the right spot. D. Winters, I got sniped by Big Dirty again, by Kyle. I really regret kind of the order I took it. I loved Cam Jones so much that, I thought, and D. Winters is undersized. But, anybody else besides Big Dirty there, and I think he sneaks through. And then I think, well, I guess now that you say that, I wouldn't have got Jeremy Banks. But Winters was somebody who just showed out against Michigan, man. I mean, he was explosive. He was all over the field in that college football playoff. And so it doesn't surprise me that Kyle took him there. And Banks, I mean, to me, I think it's a little early. But if you were going to take him, then I guess that I did the right thing. So moving on.
Yep. You did the perfect thing. So now I'm gonna roll through the whole fifth round here as we pick up a little steam. So 501, that kicks off the fifth round. That's the 58th overall pick, which is me. I took Shaka Hayward, the linebacker from Duke. Weak position for my team, but I thought he was considering, with what did we just talk about? D. Winters, Jeremy Banks. I think he kind of fell in with this group, and I think he was the best available here. So I think he can be a decent starter. I wouldn't say a great starter or anything like that, but I think he has starter qualities for a team that really needs linebacker help. He can provide that, I think. So I like that there. 502 was Brenton Cox, the linebacker out of Florida. 503 was Marte Mapu, linebacker / safety out of Sacramento State, the Division II guy. 504 was Isaiah McGuire, defensive end from Missouri. 505 is Jacqueline Roy, the big defensive tackle from LSU. 506 is Seer Abdullah, Abdullah, the linebacker from Louisville. 507 Kobe Turner, defensive tackle from Wake Forest. 508 Keely Rango, the corner from Georgia. 509 Jose Ramirez, the defensive end from Eastern Michigan. Then you got 510. Yep, 510. You got Nick Hampton, linebacker from Appalachian State. 511 Moro Ajamo, the defensive tackle from Texas. Then you've got Isaiah Land, the defensive end / outside linebacker from Florida A&M. And then at 513, you've got Ventrell Miller, the linebacker from Florida. And rounding out the round at 514 was Nesta Jade Silva from Arizona State, who actually came from your Hurricanes before he transferred. The U. I'll run through these real quick. I kind of like the Marte Mapu. I know he's a Division II prospect, but showed a lot of good qualities, right? Especially if you're watching his film. I mean, he just stood out. Now, the question is, can he go from Division II to the NFL and have some kind of hold his own or similar impact? That remains to be seen, because that's quite a jump, right? There's a reason you're playing Division II. It's not very often you find a player that's in Division II that should have never been. But anyway, then you had the big guys, Isaiah McGuire, Jacqueline Roy. If you're looking for a tackle, I think Roy is more of a run stuffer. He's a big dude, but I don't know about his fantasy outlook because he just doesn't provide a whole lot of interior pass rush. For me, I would have rather jumped down here and had Kobe Turner from Wake Forest, because I think he does give you some of that interior pass rush, gives you a little more fantasy value. So I like that pick at 507. And then, of course, I'll talk about my two here. Keely Rango, the corner from Georgia, right? Tested off the freaking charts. Just an amazing athlete on a team loaded with athletes. I think with his size, there's a chance that if he doesn't cut it at corner, they could move him to safety. And with the way he plays, because he's physical, he doesn't care to come down against the run and hit you. So if it doesn't work out at corner, I think he can move to safety. But I think he sticks at corner. With his height and his weight and size, the way he can run, put him in zone, he is absolutely going to thump you. When he can see what's in front of him, he's going to knock you out. And then with his ability, his stuff, he can carry you with the bigger receivers down the field. They're not going to torch him all the way because he's fast. So I think you could line him up, in zone and let him cover the tight ends, right? Because he's got the size and speed there. So I think I like him. I think he's NFL-wise, I wouldn't be surprised to see him sneak into the back of the NFL's first round. I don't know if it'll happen, but it wouldn't surprise me. And then Jose Ramirez, man, we talked about it earlier. And some of y'all have heard me talk about my grading chart. Man, he was off the charts, right? And him grading off the charts, I'd seen some of his games, but once I seen the grade, I was like, okay, what am I missing here? Because he's at Eastern Michigan, right? So I went back and looked, and he's got some things. He's a little smaller, a little thin. I think he could be better against the run, but his pass rush upside is off the charts. And, who else come from Eastern Michigan that's a good pass rusher, right?
Mad Max.
Some question marks. Max Crosby. Now, I'm not saying he's Max Crosby, but yeah. So, I just think with the pass rush upside, I thought that was good value there. I took a flyer there. I really like the Isaiah Land by Justice at 5'12". I thought that was a great pick. Looking at his tape, he can rush the passer. He can drop in coverage a little bit, do a little bit of everything you need. So I really like that pick. At 69, I thought that was pretty good value for him.
Okay. So for me, Shaka Hayward, I have an unreasonable bias against Duke football players. They've been a doormat for a long time in the ACC. I hardly look at them. I'm not, and that's going to be a theme throughout this portion for me, because I don't really scout D2 at all. Period. End of story. I just don't. The way I tell you guys is, like, if you guys end up beating me with somebody from D2, then so be it. And that's some lazy analysis, but that's just the way it is for me. I put a premium on, the higher level competition, the SECs, the Big Tens, the Power Five is sort of. I don't even really like, the lower levels of Division One in some ways, right? I question the competition, but definitely for D2. But Brenton Cox I don't know what it is with me and Brenton Cox. It might just be a name thing or like a hype thing, but he's just a baller, in my opinion. Despite his limitations and trouble, right? Like he's had some trouble. He's 6'4", 250, nothing to write home about testing wise. He only ran a 4.82, a 1.65 10-yard split. But like I said, I just feel like he's a football player. I could care less about Marte Mapu. Like I said, go ahead, take him. In my opinion, like, if you guys beat me with D2 guys, then so be it. Isaiah McGuire, somebody I was very, very high on early in the process, still high on him. Had him in my top 50, 6'4", 268, ran a 4.76. But his 10-yard split is what turned me off. And I got varying results. Somebody said the other day, who was it? The math bomb guy there, Kyle Lee Platt or something like that is his name. And Permo was saying that it was like a 1.59 10-yard split on that RAS score, and I saw it on the site, but I have it as a 1.72. Brock Chop also had it as a 1.72. I believe what's his face from NFL.com, Zerline had it at that. So that's really what dropped him from. I had him up at 35, and then I dropped him down to 49. So that might be a mistake, and I like that pick a lot by Chopping. We kind of skipped over that other part there with all those DBs drafted, and I want to sort of plant my flag in a negative fashion on Jair Brown. I have a bet that Sidney Brown's going to go ahead of him in the NFL draft, and I don't like Jair Brown at all. I couldn't believe some pundits had him as high as their number 3 safety. But, I mean, he does have some traits, and I'm kind of going backwards in the draft there. But I just wanted to I want to be on record as saying these things. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want anybody to be confused about who I'm higher on and who I'm lower on. And I actually made a list that I will post on my website about that. But Jaquelin Roy, I think that one thing that stands out to me about him is passes batted down. So if you're in a league that counts those, he's somebody maybe to target at, very late in your, if it's an offense and defense draft, I'm saying, maybe take a shot on him in the 10th round for that reason. And I like him. I like him quite a bit, actually. He's got the prototypical size, and he like those batted down passes are an art form. So he has that, right? He's always looking up, and he's always trying to get in those passing lanes. So there's something that probably you won't hear every day. I'm not a Yasir Abdullah guy. I'm not a Kobe Turner guy. Keely Ringo, whatever, corner. But yeah, I liked what you said about him, so I'll leave that alone. I do feel like he got exposed sometimes, more than I would have thought he would have. And he's sort of more name and hype than anything. And I kind of like your call that he could be a safety in the future, or a big nickel. I like that. Slot corner sort of situation for him. Jose Ramirez, I couldn't find very much tape on him at all. I'm hearing good things about him, recently, and some guys are really high on him. So, maybe you have a nice pick there, but I wasn't able to assess him properly, I guess is what I'll say. I own Nick Hampton in college, and pulling for him big time, but like there's not much you can do about 6'2", 236 pounds. And at that small size, he only had a 1.65 10-yard split. So 236 pounds is what it is in the pros. You know what I mean? But, whatever. I like the guy. I hope he does well. Moro Ojomo, I kind of regret showing some of my early mock drafts to Kyle and you guys on that text thread. No, I'm just joking. He's a run stuffer. I ain't really worried about it. Isaiah Land, yeah, maybe he has some potential as an edge, but again, I didn't watch his tape. I saw some of them at the Senior Bowl, but I'm not all that worried about him, and I see his future as an edge, but I'm not worried about it, put it that way. Oh, Ventrell Miller. Love Ventrell Miller. Again, I don't know, like, for a Miami fan, I like a lot of Florida Gators, and I was higher on him in years past, but I still feel he can be a steady pro. He needs to go to the right spot, though. They got to believe in him wherever he goes. Nesta Jade Silvera, former Miami Hurricane. Like we said, I like him. But, the upside is, he'll be solid. He ain't Warren Sapp, that's for sure.
Right. Well, that's the first 5 rounds. I'll try to run through these. Maybe we'll run through the 6th to 7th a little quicker, and then we'll look at the back end real quick. 601, Aubrey Miller, linebacker from Jackson State.
I like that pick by you. I'll just interject right quick and say what I have to say.
602, Jartavius.
I thought that was a good pick. Even though I don't like D2 guys, like I've been saying, I did some homework on him in a mock draft, in a simulator, and I started looking into him, and I like what I see.
Yeah, I thought he was definitely worth a flyer, right?
Right.
At this late in the draft at pick 72, I thought that was pretty good value, to get somebody with some. So, 602, Jartavius Martin, the safety. 603, Yaya Diaby, the defensive end from Louisville. 604, Ali Gay from LSU, the defensive end. 605, Thomas Nkum, defensive end from Central Michigan. 606, Isaiah Moore, linebacker from North Carolina State. 607, Lonnie Phelps, in from Kansas. 608, Broderick Martin from Western Kentucky. 609, Daniel Scott, the safety from California. 610, Julius Brents, the corner from Kansas State. 611, Chris Smith, safety from Georgia. 6'12", Charlie Thomas, linebacker from Georgia Tech. 6'13", Byron Young, the defensive tackle from Alabama. 6'14", Iliama Fihoku, if I could say that right, the edge from San Jose State. We talked about Miller already. I think the next one down for me that really kind of stood out was Thomas and Kuhn. I know he's that MAC player, but he's one kind of similar to Carl Brooks. Maybe not as good as Carl Brooks, but I think because he's a little bit bigger of a player, so I think he's going to kick inside more. But I like him as a late round guy. There's some potential there for him at linebacker, I guess, if he's in the right spot. Lonnie Phelps, if he gets in the right spot as a pass rusher, there's some upside there. I was surprised that Daniel Scott wasn't gone for a team that needed a safety because, boy, he could play. If you look at his last 2 years in California, he's got the good college production that you want to see. I know it's in the Pac-12, but still, good college production. He's got range. He's got speed. He can cover, and he'll hit you. So those are the main qualities you're looking for in a safety. So I like that out of him. Julius Brents, corner, I think unless you're really hurting for corners, you're probably not taking these guys in this range. So I thought that was early for him. Chris Smith, depending on he's a safety, but he can play any spot in the secondary, right? He can play outside corner. He can kick in the slot. He can play free safety. Can play a little strong safety for you if you need to. So like his versatility, a good player. I think he's going to get drafted pretty high in NFL draft. So I'm curious to see where he's going to land. I like the Charlie Thomas pick. I thought that was a good pick at linebacker. And Viliama Fihoco by our buddy Chop there, the edge from San Jose State. I thought that was a solid pick too. It picked 85 overall. I mean, you're going for upside with a pass rusher. So he's a little thin. I think he's got some length and some height, but he's just, he needs to pass. And I'm curious if he does that, if he can still hold up where he was. So that's the 6th round. Anything stand out to you? I'll roll back up so you can see it.
Sixth round is easy for me. I don't like any of them very much at all, other than Daniel Scott. I loved throughout the whole process. I thought I was too high on him, so I was trying to temper my enthusiasm, but it kind of sort of worked against me really because he used to be good value before the combine, then he blew up at the combine, so I figured, I won't get him anymore. He went from being a value to me to that I thought he would be overdrafted, but really you got him at a really good spot here. So I don't know what I was thinking. I think I just kind of got into a frame of mind where I needed to get those linebackers, and then I didn't draft for quite some time. So I was hoping that he would fall, but he didn't. But he sticks out to me, and so does Fehoko. I find him sort of thicker. I don't find him skinny, but I really loved his tape. It's against lower level competition though. But I thought that's a great pick. I thought I would be able to get him late. He had excellent tape, and he's just a baller who gives his all, and he produces big time. So I had him ranked at 68. Where did he go? And he went at 85. Yeah, so it just didn't work out for me. I don't know if you could scroll back a bit, maybe.
Yep.
Oh, I had a chance to take him actually. I guess I was just because I was the pick before. And I took Byron Young, who was a little bit of an undersized D tackle at Alabama. And, in retrospect, I probably wish I would have taken Fehoko over him. I just felt like I could get Fehoko later, and I probably just pushed it down too long, and that's what happens. But, yeah, for Chris Smith, he's probably more of a real-life player than a, IDP asset in my mind. And all the rest of I like Isaiah Moore enough in the real world, but he's more of a 2-down player. And let me just see what I have on my notes to make sure that I'm not making a mistake with that. Oh, sorry, it's Drake Thomas, that the other linebacker from NC State. I'm not a Jartavius Martin guy at all after watching the tape. I hadn't really done my homework on him at that point, but I just watched the tape recently and I don't like it, even though he tested very well. So, yeah, that's it for me for the 6th round.
All
And
right.
I don't like Charlie Thomas. But we're in the 6th round, so they're all shots.
7th round. So I kick off the 7th round. Right. So, yeah, it's flyers, it's upside, it's, like you said, shots in the dark, dart throws, right? Kick off the 7th round here.
Oh, one last thing. Oh, sorry, that is the 7th round. My fault. Sorry. I thought we were skipping past Cam Smith. I wanted to talk about him in real life because I feel like he's very undervalued now in real life. I think he's a really good man-to-man coverage corner, press cover corner. He looks like a fit for like a Bill Belichick too. I could see him if he's in the 2nd round. I could see him, Belichick taking him or Clark Phillips. See Jaguars taking them too. They need help at corner. I last episode when I listened to it again, I realized that I kind of omitted the fact that the Jags really need corner bad. So I wanted to sort of correct myself on that. But anyways, go ahead. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah. Cam Smith was 703, 88 overall. Is there. I kicked off at 701, and it was just like I said, a pure dart throw is all this was because this dude tested off the freaking charts.
Unbelievable testing,
right?
man.
I mean, it was just crazy.
Unbelievable testing.
Yeah, and we're talking about
40-inch vert or something. 42-inch vert or something crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, and he ran a crazy 40 too, I think. Yeah. All of his numbers was crazy.
So that's why I don't put a lot of stock in the pro day, though. Pro day numbers are skewed.
True.
But still, why not? You know what I mean?
Testing
numbers like that.
I really kicked. Exactly. This next one, I really kicked myself in the pants for because I love this dude. I think he's one of the 5 best corners in this league or in this draft. I really do. You're not going to tell me otherwise. But I didn't think he would go this high, and that's Clark Phillips III from Utah. Everybody's going to say, well, he's not very big and blah, blah, blah. You know what? I don't care. You go of him at Utah and tell me where he played bad. It's going to be hard for you to find it, even at that size. That dude can play, and he's probably going to go in the 2nd round of the NFL draft. I would be shocked if he fell out of the 2nd round. He's that good. Looking down through, we talked about Cam Smith. 704 was Deontay Banks, who a lot of people are high on. 705 is Ronnie Hickman, the safety from Ohio State. 706 is corner DJ Turner. We're high on him. 707 is Siaka Ika, the big D tackle from Baylor. 708 was Jalen Redmond, which was your pick, defensive tackle from Oklahoma. Then you've got 709 is Jason Taylor, the second. Yes, his dad is Jason Taylor for the Dolphins, but this is the safety from Oklahoma State. Then you had Kavion Merriweather, the safety from Iowa at 710. 711 was Michael Jones, the linebacker from Syracuse. 712 is Emmanuel Forbes from Mississippi State, the corner. 713 was Scott Matlock, defensive tackle from Boise. 714 was, I'm going to mess this up, Habakkuk Baldonado, defensive end from Pitt. So that rounds out the 7th. I can't believe I got Matlock at 713, which was pick 98 overall. I thought he would go much higher than that. He's a pure motor guy, going to give you effort, and I love those. Build team for days around them. You show me somebody that's going to give me effort and plays with a high motor, you can get something out of them, right? And I think the NFL kind of sees that the same way. They don't want players that are taking plays off. So I think they can work with these guys. Not that they're going to be stars, not that they're not, but I feel like NFL, they want these players that are going to give the effort, and they don't have to push that, right? They just have to teach them the finer things, fine tune them, because they know they're going to get the effort. So I was shocked he fell that far. Man, I really liked your Jalen Redmond pick at 93, defensive tackle. I thought that was good. We talked about Sumerin and Clarks and Smith. I really like Deontay Banks and Turner, but again, fantasy-wise, I think you can get some of these corners a little bit later, even maybe free agency, right? Because we got that still coming for this league.
100%.
So that didn't really move the boat for me. Anybody stand out to you? I'll roll back up where you.
No, not really. Like you said, like I don't really give a shit about corners. But in real life, Deontay Banks is more of a zone corner in my opinion, and I think he kind of fits with Washington a bit. I believe it was. I had a whole 2-round mock draft that I did with analysis, all color coded, beautiful. Spent a shit ton of time on it one Saturday, and Microsoft Word it signed me out when I shut my computer off for the night and fell asleep. Like I just closed my laptop, and then all of a sudden I had this crazy virus the next day. I lost 12 hours of work, and it was a downer. And honestly, I want to thank you and a couple other people for kind of picking me up out of that, because I was right then and there. I kind of like quit the idea of having a website, and I was like, it's not meant to be. It's a sign, but whatever. Moving forward, gonna see what happens with it all. But Ronnie Hickman is a guy that kind of stands out to me. I think if he stays healthy, he could be. He's right after Jamie Robinson for me here. As far as the next safety up, there's a little bit of distance, in overall rankings between him. Siaka Ika is just so obvious to me that he's a Vita Vea comp, you know what I mean? But guys that size, there's not a lot of success stories for IDP. His real life value is much greater than his IDP value. Jalen Redmond, I put in when I took him, I said he's D tackle-ish, right? Because he's small and he had to play, sort of like a nose tackle role, like a true interior defensive lineman role with Oklahoma, which wasn't great for him. I could almost see him sort of on a 3-4 team as a big end. I think there's enough upside there. Pass rush upside is what I'm looking for out of my D tackles. Jason Taylor, whatever. He's solid, but like I don't really care. Mikael Jones is somebody I sort of wish I had taken in a way. And like I said, I respect Kyle, and so I'm assuming that he had a good process with him and he watched the tape. And I saw some good things that I liked out of Mikael Jones, but I didn't study him in depth. Matlock, somebody I owned in college, so I said that I like to make these bold claims that you never would have known who he was if it wasn't for me. Just joking around, tongue in cheek, but he's one of my guys, and we can move on from there. I mean, I'm not trying to say Scott Matlock is going to be a world beater or anything. I like the way you framed it earlier, so we can just leave it at that. He's going to bring he's a lunch pail guy, and he's going to I think he's a redhead too, if I'm not mistaken, a fiery redhead.
Yep.
So he's got some spunk to him. You know what I mean? You're gonna want him on your team in real life, but I'm not sure what he's gonna do for you from an IDP perspective.
Right. So we'll go to the 8th round. I'll try to pick these up a little bit and not talk as much. 801, which is the 100th pick of this draft, and this was a complete dart throw, kind of like the Ben Samarin for me, Caleb Murphy, and this is the Division II pass rusher monster from Ferris State. Watched a little bit of his, he dominated that level. Of course he did. What you should do. So he checked that box for me, and I thought, you know what, as a pure pass rush upside, why not throw the dart here? So that's what that was. 802 is Jay Ward, the safety from LSU. 803 is Dante Stills, the defensive tackle, West Virginia. 804 is Brandon Hill, safety from Pittsburgh. 805 is corner Darius Rush from South Carolina. 806, Anthony Johnson Jr., the safety from Iowa State. 806, Riley Moss, the corner from Iowa. 808, Chamari Connor, safety from Virginia Tech. 809, Tavius Robinson. I don't know if I've ever heard that name in my life. The defensive end from Ole Miss. 8'10" is Eli Ricks, the corner from Alabama. 8'11", DJ Johnson from Oregon, the defensive end. 8'12", Quindell Johnson, safety. 8'13" is Nico Bolden, safety from Kent State. 8'14", Zeke Vandenberg, defensive end / outside linebacker from Illinois State. Like I said, I took the big shot on Caleb Murphy. Dante Stills is a decent pick for a defensive tackle. Not worried about these defensive backs too much. Although I did think Riley Moss at 106 was pretty good. High production. Can do some things. And I think Kyle's the big dirty, right? So I kind of like this DJ Johnson pick from him, the defensive end from Oregon. I thought there was some upside there, kind of a bigger body defensive end, really tall and long. So I kind of like that pick. And then I'll turn it over to you because that was some of my highlights out of that round, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know much about Caleb Murphy's Ferris State or something like that. I think D2. I think he had he might have been like a player of the year or something like that, or he led the D2 in sacks or something like that. So he's got some production. I have no idea though. I didn't watch.
Yeah, he set the career record at that level. I forget what it was. It's like he set it for the season. He had like 23 and a half in a season, I think it was, and then his career number's like 72 or something. So just a monster, but that's a big jump from Division II to NFL. So we'll see.
Whatever at pick 100. I mean, if he can, you know what I mean. If he can get sacks like at any level, like that's what NFL evaluators look for too. You know, right. That's your job as a defensive end to sack the quarterback, get pressures. So if you can do it at that level, maybe you can do it at the pros. Jay Ward, LSU safety, so that's usually a good sign. I kind of liked him. I thought that was good value. Dante Stills, undersized, but I got a feeling about that guy. And yeah, I like him. Brandon Hill, I thought was a great pick at 103. To be quite frank with you, I thought again Doomsday, the rookie owner. I thought he another two solid good picks there with Dante Stills and Brandon Hill. Darius Rush was undraftable for me. I thought he sucked shit. His tape sucks shit. Riley Moss is the only corner that you will see on my top 88 list here in honor of Michael Irvin, number 88. And I selected Shamari Connor. I probably have some, visions of past success with Divine Diablo, but I thought he tested well, and he's a pretty good player. He's a solid player. Like I think he's going to make a team. Special teams contributor probably, and he's a little bit smaller and probably frankly not as good as Divine Diablo, but it's still good value there, I think. And Tavius Robinson, my Canadian brother from another mother. Now, if Tavius Robinson had just decided not to run a 3-cone and a short shuttle, that guy could go in the second round of this draft, man, based on previous NFL drafts and where pass rushers go and some guys that aren't really that good. I mean, this guy has some traits that you definitely look for, man, and he's been steadily improving. He had his best year yet at Ole Miss last year. And I've just been giving you guys the gears about me getting him in the 8th round, and I think that's a great value there. DJ Johnson, I have a different take than you. I see him as a tweener. I think he's kind of small. He's like one of those linebacker DN types, I didn't hate the tape, but I just don't see him as like a complete football player, in my opinion. He could blossom in the right spot, but it's just kind of awkward, and it seems like maybe he has a low sort of football IQ. But Quindell Johnson's more of a free safety. Nico Bolden, it's funny when Doomsday took him, I was sort of looking into him a bit at Kent State, somebody that I didn't really, look into previously in the process, but I was looking for like, a safety that I could get and looking at some tape. So he kind of went when I started looking at him, he kind of went, and I was like, yeah, that's not a bad pick there, Doomsday. You know what I mean? For under the radar, Kent State. Zeke Vandenberg, the most important thing to know about this guy is what a set of hair on him, man. What a great what a great head of hair on him.
Right.
But I'm not overly concerned about him at the next level. But Orange Crush thinks you got to steal with him, so we'll see. And he knows his shit. He researches his stuff pretty thoroughly. But I think he gets too obscure. He might have fell into the Hollywood trap from previous years. There's sometimes when you can know too much about
Yeah,
a
he might.
subject. You know what I mean? And you guys go too deep on the IDP sometimes, and you think, this used to happen to me in the college fantasy football, right? I'd be like, oh man, somebody's got to be looking at this guy, and I get all hype about somebody that's like, in reality, nobody's really thinking about him. You know what I mean? Or even though it's the 8th round for this guy, but like, yeah, and maybe I'm wrong, but some of these D2 guys that were taken earlier, I don't know. I find that questionable, but I'll probably get proven wrong every time I talk shit. I'm doing you guys a favor right now, talking this shit. You know what I mean? It blows up in my face.
Right. Well, it happens to me too. Somebody I like will do nothing if I draft them, and if somebody else drafts them, they do everything. So I can't win for losing. But so we got 2 rounds left here. We'll run through these. 901. Merlin Robinson, linebacker, Arizona State. 902 is Cameron Young, defensive State. Tyler Lacey is 903, defensive tackle, Oklahoma State. Jalen Graham, linebacker from Purdue at 904. BJ Thompson, defensive end from Stephen F. Austin at 905. Gerard Clark, defensive tackle, Coastal Carolina at excuse me, at 906. DeMarco Helms, safety from Alabama at 907. Bumper Pool, linebacker from Arkansas at 908. What a great name. MJ Anderson, defensive end from Iowa State at 909. Mike Jones Jr., linebacker from LSU at 910. Tyreek Stevenson, corner from Miami at 911. Then you've got Trey Dean, the safety from Florida at 912. Javarius Owens, the safety from Houston at 913. And then at 914, you got Tyra Sweet, the defensive edge from Mississippi State. The one that stands out for me is the BJ Thompson. I thought that was a pretty good pick. He was a pretty good player for Stephen F. Austin. Let's see if he can do the same thing, stepping up in competition. I like my pick, DeMarco Helms, for a late round pick at safety. You couldn't ask for much better value at pick 120, so I thought that was good. And honestly, I forgot. I loved the bumper pool pick. I had forgotten. I don't know how I missed it, or I would have took him a lot earlier, especially me needing linebacker help. But I completely missed him somehow, and so I like that pick for you. I think there's some good value there. And then the Tyreek Stevenson, I know he's a corner, but I think he can play some safety too. Long, tall, can cover, can run. So he's a little bit of an intriguing player there for me.
And you scroll back up. Okay, 9.01. So a lot of these guys were getting into like 1 in a billion territory. You know what I mean? Like these are super long shots. My pick, Cameron Young. I write here that he's got promising potential in my opinion. He had a decent Senior Bowl and maybe more pass rush at the next level. I kind of seen the ability to possibly, get some pass rush. He was quicker than I thought he would be. Tyler Lacey, too small for me. A lot of these guys undraftable for me. Jalen Graham, same thing. BJ Thompson, Division II, so I didn't really scout him. Gerard Clark, I've been calling him Gerard the Bod Clark. I read an article that I like him. I like, even though his competition wasn't great, I think he has potential to be, and I'm gonna jinx the shit out of him, but great. Like I think he could possibly be actually great. He's a big dude, but he moves well. He can shoot the gap. I mean, I remember reading something that Mike Tomlin had said to him from Pittsburgh, the Steelers, said, be great. And kind of that stuck with me, and maybe that's why I think he can be. But I think that maybe Tomlin sees that too, and I wouldn't be surprised if possibly they take him. DeMarco Helms was undraftable for me. Bumper Pool, a guy I owned in college, tackling machine, love him. He lit up Penn State QB there. Been away from college football too long, and he's blanking out on his name. If I had more time, I could remember. I thought Mike Jones from LSU. I regretted not taking him earlier. He was somebody that I had on the bottom of my list. Tyreek Stevenson, yeah, great pick at corner at that point in the draft. Trey Dean was undraftable for me. Both of those Florida corner or safeties, garbage in my opinion. Javarius Owens, same thing. Tyus Weed, I couldn't care less about. Moving on. But one of those guys is going to hit now that I said that. All that negative stuff.
Right. And
I'm doing everybody favors here. I hope they send me thank you notes and Christmas cards.
Exactly. Right. And then our 10th and final round, and yes, 10 rounds, all IDP.
141 picks, baby.
Picks.
Woo!
Yeah, you're not going to find that anywhere else. 10th round, 10:01, is Ayinde Ely, linebacker from Georgia Tech. I took a shot on the position that I was weakest at. 10:02, you took Darrell. Oh, I'm going to butcher his name. Darrell Chomney, I think. Maybe the end silent. I can't remember. But he's the edge rusher from Maryland. 10:03 is Kablu Kelly from Stanford, the corner. 10:04 is Travius Hodges Tomlinson, the corner from TCU. That's LaDainian's nephew. You've got 10:05 Devin Shaw Maxwell, the defensive tackle from Chattanooga. 06 Callahan O'Reilly, good football name, linebacker from Montana State. 10:07 DeAndre Square, linebacker from Kentucky. 10:08 Abraham Beauplan, linebacker from Marshall. 10:09 Ikena Nchukwu, or however you say that. I probably butchered that one too. The edge rusher from Rice. Jalen Jones, corner from Texas A&M at 10:10. We had a timeout 11, but that was filled with Terrell Smith, the cornerback from Minnesota. So that was 10:11. 10:12 Lance Boykin, corner from Coastal Carolina. And then to round it out, 10:13 Darius Jones, safety from Duke. And Marvin Pierre, linebacker.
Mystery relevant.
Yeah, mystery relevant.
Man. You got a shot. It was a pretty good pick for mystery relevant for that late in the draft, man. Not bad.
Yep. So nothing really stood out to me. I think it's a lot of late flyers. I guess if I had to pick one out of this whole group, I think I would go with your edge guy, Darrell. I can't remember how to say his name. Darrell Chomney from Maryland, the edge rusher.
I think the N is silent, sort of.
So it's Chomney, Darrell Chomney.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I've heard it pronounced, but I can't remember how to say it. So, yeah, I like him. Good upside there for a late-round pick. So.
Yeah, he's a bit of a tweener, and he was hurt a lot. He's definitely got some upside, though, for that point in the draft. One thing I would say about all of the 9th and the 10th is, like, all these corners taken in the 9th and the 10th have just as good a shot at succeeding as the one, if not more, right? Because if they get on the field, they're not the high-level prospects, so they're going to get targeted, and they're probably going to be better producers, right? For whatever reason, especially like a guy like Hodges Tomlinson, who's a good real-life player, but he's short, you know what I mean? Like, NFL is going to try to pick on a guy like that. Caillou Blue Kelly or whatever, he's a good man. He's a man-to-man guy, so, you know, he's going to try to challenge people, and he could get tested too. So basically, like, these 9th and 10th round corners have just as good a shot as the higher rated guys, if not more, in IDP, in my opinion. So I wanted to point that out. And then really DeAndre Square was
Right,
my
and
pick.
they've got some bloodline to them too, right? Like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. They got some bloodline to them too, like Hodges Tomlinson, Kai Blue Kelly, Jason Taylor. There's a few guys in here that's, if you look back, they've got some NFL bloodline, whether fathers or uncles or whoever's played. So this late in the draft, why not take a shot on a player like that, right?
Yeah, I mean they're good players, they're solid football players, but for IDP, anyways, I don't want to get sidetracked on that.
Yep.
DeAndre Square, these guys are two guys that I was on last year, right? More so, it's kind of based on 2021 more than 2022 in a way, and I really needed to try to hit a linebacker, so I just tried to get a few more numbers here. I got 5 linebackers, even though I only started drafting them mid 5th round, and they're kind of lower level guys on a Kuiper or a McShay's board. But I just think that they have a chance. And if I can just hit on one of those 5 guys, like not even hit, just somewhat hit, like a contributor, you know what I mean? Like a Jermaine Pratt or something like that, like,
right.
Solid, not elite. But yeah, I like both those linebackers, Square and Bullplan. I like the way they are sort of big enough to take on O linemen, you know what I mean? Give them the long arm when they need to and keep them at bay and keep them off of them, not get covered up, and quick enough to also, sidestep them and sort of make plays in front of them, right? Like coming downhill, towards the line of scrimmage and just not be affected as much by O linemen. But Bullplan's tape versus ND isn't going to blow you away, and that's really what I try to look at is a prospect's toughest game, right? Because that's going to give you a glimpse into their NFL future. What was their best competition at the college level? So shots in the dark. DeAndre Square also ran over his trainer, like a bit of a bonehead move there. I really don't know why he didn't slow down and why he hit his own trainer, and he knows it was stupid, and I think he's going to have to answer that question. And it might mean that he goes undrafted because of that, right? But, he apologized to the trainer later, and a lot of people were giving him a lot of flack on social media.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a possibility.
Yeah. But, and Marvin Pierre, like I said, I watched his highlight tape, and I was like, oh, wow, not bad, Perma for Mr. Irrelevant, pick number 141. Then I started watching his tape against Oklahoma, and I started watching. He played another good team too. I can't remember. They had a couple of really good teams, like high level competition on their slate last year, and I wasn't impressed because I was actually thinking about maybe trying to get a trade done with him, but he's undersized. I think I threw him on my list just because Perma took him, and it's a hope and a prayer at that point. One guy I was surprised didn't go was Jordan Howden. I think he'll probably be picked up in free agency. He's more of a free safety, but he tested pretty well, and I think he definitely belongs in the NFL. Somebody that I owned in college, it would have been my next pick if I had been able to acquire some more picks and take another shot at linebacker, would have been James Patterson. His brother plays running back for Washington in the NFL, and he's solid. He has a shot, I think, to stick somewhere. And another guy I owned in college, who's my number 88 overall, is Krishan Merriweather. So out of Texas Tech, and he's a little bit bigger and a little bit slower, but he makes a lot of tackles. He's a solid football player. So that wraps it up for me. I don't know what we're running at for time here, but
kind of wraps it up.
I thought it was an awesome
141 players.
Yeah, I thought it was an awesome overall draft. I was pretty proud of it. I'm proud to have created the league. I know we were talking together when we created it, a few of us, and it was during COVID at some point, one of those 2 years. I think it was maybe the second year of COVID, or maybe it was the first one, but we didn't have a lot going on, and you know what I mean? It just struck me, yeah, let's do an IDP only league. And honestly, I care more about this league than any other league that I'm in. and I kind of consider it like the major leagues. And I guess it's because of its obscurity. You know what I mean? I guess it's because it's not mainstream. I've always been an underground kind of guy. Like I like underground stuff. I get turned on by, like deeper things. I think that's what turned me on to college fantasy football originally when I was playing 20 years ago, and I thought it was, better than NFL fantasy football. But now I kind of feel like it's a little bit watered down, but still, it's that sort of underground feel to it that you
Right,
can't always just go off of some other person's list because they don't really exist, and it's going to be guys like us that are going to be creating these lists. And so that's why I think we bring some value to this this space and this quote unquote industry. And you're going to be able to find this stuff on my website, and you're going to be able to find this stuff on your website and in your social media. And guys like Kyle and guys like Doc and guys like Trip and Brock is knowledgeable. Like the whole league. I'm proud of the whole league. I put this set of owners against anybody, and this was our best draft yet, I feel. And I think we've kind of refined our process. It was probably new to a lot of people in the early going 3 years ago when we did our first rookie draft, and we've learned and we've gotten better and improved. And I think this could be the best IDP only draft ever done. And I don't know if there's any listeners out there that know of anybody else that's doing it like this, but I'd be surprised if anybody went this deep. So you'll be able to find this draft. You'll be able to find the league's 2021 draft, 2022 draft on my site when it's completed. You'll be able to find some first round analysis on the 2022 guys that I put out there as something fun for our league to look at, and just something fun for me to do, something that I enjoy to do, and I enjoy putting my feet to the fire, so to speak, and going on record and saying, I like these guys or I don't like these guys. And, I try to make a lot of hot takes, you know what I mean? I don't just do what, is expected or take the chalk, I'm not going to be the guy that says, oh yeah, Will Anderson, you should go get him. Obviously you should, but like, I'm more of a, take a guy that's a little lower on the list, like a Luke Van Ness, or you know what I mean? I'm gonna plant my flag on those guys, and that's what it makes it fun for me. So,
right? Yeah, I agree. I mean, that was one of a couple of the biggest draws to this league was when it was IDP only, right? And we got a bunch of great owners. That was a big appeal. But we draft before the NFL draft, right? So it's not like you can just run out here and look at rankings and grades and whatever. You kind of got to do your homework. You got to do your own thing and be a believer in what you're doing. And I think that's what makes it so much more fun, right? Because you see things one and Trip will see them another way, and I've got my grades, and Doc's got his rankings, each personal to us. And I think that makes this so much fun. It's almost so much fun to draft ahead of the draft that I kind of wish all my leagues were like that in a way. Now, I say that now, and then I'm going to, once the draft, I'll have all these players. I'll be like, shit, he landed in a crappy spot, right? But I like the pre-draft. I like drafting before. I think it'd be interesting to do a full, like an NWO league, maybe not a contract, but maybe do a full offense IDP league where you draft before, because I think that would be interesting. But yeah, looking at the draft, a lot of pass rushers went early, right? You had the 3 linebackers kind of early, a couple safeties early, and then it was kind of dominated by edge rushers a lot of linebackers too. So I just think this defensive class so deep at the edge position that it kind of led that way, right? Not a lot of great linebackers, not a lot of great safeties, maybe a handful of each, and the rest of it was defensive ends and outside linebackers. So be interesting to see how we'll find out tomorrow, right? So it's almost midnight, so we're almost a little over 7-8 hours away from finding out where some of these guys begin to land, and I think that'll be really interesting.
No, about
To,
I think it
to get
starts
home
tomorrow
from
at
work,
8,
and
8 p.m. Usually around 8 p.m. on
yeah, so
Thursday.
so we got about 8-9 hours till it kicks off. So, um, awesome stuff, man. Anything else you want to add?
No, not really, man. I probably should keep this under 2.5 hours. I'll say that I placed a bet to that Nolan Smith will go after pick 11.5, and that's your Titans pick.
After 11.5?
Yeah, and I mean he blew up the combine, and who knows, but he's a little on the smaller side. I could see him sliding.
What was your odds? Just curious. What was your odds?
Well, it was basically even. It's a little less. I'm taking home a little less, but like I'll give you an exact number here. Hold on.
Okay.
But you go ahead and shoot.
You said 11.5. I'm trying to think. So that's Tennessee picks 11, so it would be after them. Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, so they're basically banking on Tennessee. Yeah, I don't know, but
Tennessee's not going to.
I mean, he blew up the combine though, like you know what I mean. And those freaks, those are guys that I usually miss on, right? And I'm a little worried about Van Ness in that regard. You know what I mean? Not a huge sample size. I'm kind of projecting a lot. I got enamored with the whole throwing of Skoronski, on his ass and pushing Paris Johnson back into CJ Stroud's lap and just like the upside, and sort of underside. Well, Nolan Smith is a guy that typically in the past that I would bust on, right? That's a guy that I would be real high on and may bust on because, of his size. So we'll see. But like I said, he holds the edge down real well and he plays a run real well.
Yeah, he does.
So I'm not concerned about him, in that way, even though, but still, like, the size is concerning for me. So I'm just going to I'm going to take the later than 11.5. So all you gamblers out there should probably take the 4.
Man, I don't know if I could take him before. I'd have to see the odds on that, but
and I'm definitely taking Sidney Brown over Jair Brown. So that'll probably go vice versa as well.
No, I think that's a good call on you. When you said that earlier, I was like, yeah, I think that's probably.
I'm only getting like 50, 60 cents on the dollar on that one.
But yeah.
And now that Quentin Johnson isn't invited for the green room there in the first round, there's some bets out there. I think it was Zay Flowers. Again, I'm only getting 40, 50 cents on the dollar, but like that's pretty much a lock now. Even though for me, Zay Flowers is an inch too short. The NFL has changed drastically even in the last 5 years. So his catch radius isn't great, and but whoever takes him is going to probably be a fit. Personally, and what else was there out there? Gambling stuff that I took a shot on. I like Broderick. Is it Jones? Tackle from Georgia.
Jones,
yeah, I really love him. I think he's a great fit for you guys. He's a great athlete, former basketball player. I have him going before 14.5, right? I don't see him lasting past New England, who could use a tackle as well. But, Bill Belichick's unpredictable, so he's probably not going to do what you think. And there's a lot of Darnell Wright smoke there too, but those would be 2 good picks there. And it's cutting it kind of close to say, I think he's going to go there, and it's 14.5 is your number. But I see Tennessee as a good fit there. Philadelphia is a team that sort of plans ahead like that. Their O-line's getting older. I could see them taking Skoronski even because they could use help inside or outside, and he might be a guard at the next level with his short arms. He's got shorter than 33-inch arms, but I mean, he's got great tape. He's a great player. He'll go early. He'll go top 15. But that's those are some things that I'm thinking on Christmas Eve here. Thanks for doing this, buddy.
You're welcome. Just one quick one here. If you're a firm believer in Houston is going to take a pass rusher, specifically Will Anderson. you can. The over under is 3.5, and Houston's sitting at 2. So if you believe and you feel that that's going to happen, you can get plus money right now, plus 105. So 10 would win you 20.5. So I like those odds. If you're a true believer, they're going to take him at 2.
It was too close to call for me there because of trades, right? That's the thing that gets all screwed up with it all, right? Like if you look at the order the way it is now, it's one thing, but that's all going to be changed tomorrow. And I have a strong feeling that the top 4 picks could be quarterbacks. They really could be. Now they may not be, right? I mean, there's a lot of good players. There's a lot of you'd be passing on some guys that I think are the best players in the draft, namely Jalen Carter. But with his issues and the laziness, he could drop a bit. And Will Anderson's another guy that's not perfect in my mind, right? Like a little, I know you hate me saying this, and I mean don't get me wrong, I don't hate the guy. He's going to be solid. He's a great player, but he's a little smaller, a little slower than you might want. Like that's why this whole Tyree Wilson stuff comes into play, because Tyree's a big piece of clay to mold, and these guys are supremely confident in their ability to develop these guys. So for me, if I was going to go over or under 3.5 for Will Anderson, I might take over, but it's a non-play for me is what it boils down to because of the quarterbacks, right? Well, the Will Levis hype is real. Will Levis's ceiling is probably higher than almost anybody's except Anthony Richardson's. It might even be higher than Anthony Richardson's, to be honest with you. But I mean, those two guys came from a little bit back in the pack to they're right up there now. You know what I mean? With the question marks around Bryce Young's size, CJ Stroud, he had a great game against Georgia and all that. But I mean, I was never a real big believer of him early, like as a freshman or anything, watching his tape and a sophomore and spring games and stuff, because you're always all over that quarterback position at OSU as a college fantasy football guy. And I just kind of thought like he had a bit of a noodle arm, and I didn't really like his release and whatnot. He's definitely grown into a much better, much more polished passer now. But I mean, there's question marks there too, right? So like, there's no real slam dunk. I have question marks about all of those guys. Every single guy in the draft, the guy has question marks, and that's what you learn the longer you sort of evaluate these players. Is there are really no like elite prospects, or a lot less than you think, right? When you're younger and you're a little more inexperienced and you're a little more kind of just excited about all of it. Now you kind of temper your enthusiasm a bit with it. But so the bottom line is, I think that there's a real possibility that there could be 4 quarterbacks taken with the first 4 picks, and some shuffling around and some trading up. So I don't know. I don't see that as a
that's
as
crazy
a play for me, the Will Anderson one.
So good stuff, man. Yeah, I'm just saying, if you're a believer in that, there's some money there. Maybe if you believe strongly in that, maybe look at that. But I think I would pass on that too. Thank you for coming on, helping out, man, filling in for Kyle while he's doing his thing with his kids and stuff. I know everybody's busy, so appreciate you for doing that, man. This was fun doing the draft and going over it. Maybe after the NFL draft, like you said, we do a mock, but maybe we could come back and do another show and kind of pick over this a little bit. But, yeah, it's Fantasy Football Eve officially. Nobody's sleeping tonight. I can't wait to get home from work. I might as well not even go to work because I'm not going to pay attention to anything that's going on. So please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating. IDPnation.com page and give us a review there. Dude is working on some big things, so stay tuned to him. He'll be letting you know when all that stuff comes out and is ready. It's not too far away. Good luck to your Dolphins tomorrow. I know they don't have a first-round pick, but hopefully they can make some moves and get y'all some good players down there.
All right, brother. Have a good night.
All right. See you, everyone.